Oh my god, what am I doing? Hey there, Desiree, just thinking out loud. I'm not sure who watches my content, as in the kind of people, but I wanted to keep talking about the coronavirus because I thought it might be helpful to share some information. I'm very glad that everybody's finally starting to take it seriously. That wasn't the case a month ago. We've had a lot of time since it started happening in China for the rest of the world to respond. And there are cases popping up every day. I'm mostly going to be focusing on the US, but I'm also concerned about Jamaica because I have family there and they also have confirmed some cases and they're making preparations. But it's really interesting how many people are still thinking it's not a big deal, but it is. And the hope is that we'll be able to slow the spread, and then maybe not me or you or someone who isn't very old or doesn't have existing issues, health problems. Maybe we're not going to be immediately affected, but those people are, and we can help prevent those people from being affected. Another thing to consider is that we don't know the long term effects of COVID 19, and there have been a couple studies that came out saying that the symptoms are pneumonia like, and people have diminished lung capacity even after they've recovered. But because there hasn't actually been that much time yet, we can't say how long that's going to last for. But that's also something to consider. Even if you get it and you think that you're not you're not in one of the vulnerable sectors of the population when they're infected with COVID 19, it doesn't mean that you're off the hook in terms of how it can impact your life in the future. I heard someone describe it as airborne AIDS in terms of the actual effect it will have on people's lives. It could have on people's lives long term. But the thing I wanted to talk about today is the fact that we need medical equipment. So I listened to Trump's speech and I saw that they're definitely preparing in terms of having the drive-through testing, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to accommodate the space for hospital beds, but they're going to need certain medical equipment, particularly when it comes to respiratory equipment. And I found a couple different sources of information that I thought were interesting and could be useful. So the first of these is I'm going to show a video that was done by the Radiological Society of North America, and it's based on CT scans from patients. And there was also a study, they did it based on autopsies of people who died in China, and it showed that there was lots of mucus and stuff attached to the lungs, and the lung capacity was gone because of the body's immune response, which sometimes is an overreaction. Another study that I saw done on 150 people who died gave some stats for 68 fatal cases. 36 patients, 53% of them died from respiratory failure, 7% of them died from heart failure, and 33% of them died from both. So the big thing is the respiratory failure. You basically need to be able to keep someone alive when their ABCs, their breathing and circulation, aren't working properly. I foresee, and I'm sure many other people foresee, that the issue is medical equipment just in case people aren't responding well enough, like this Post Malone guy. I have no idea who this person is, but I've heard his name before, and apparently he had a concert. Because of people responding like that, as they're not responding enough, if we don't slow the spread of the virus, then we might deal with, we meaning the US, might, or other countries in the world, might be dealing with what Italy is dealing with in terms of having to triage patients and deciding who gets to live and who dies, simply because they didn't slow it enough so that the inflow could be handled better by hospitals. And something else that I wanted to show you guys was there's a proposal to build a 3D printed ventilator, well, to build multiple ones of them, so that people can possibly, through an open source effort, meet the demands for more ventilators if that is required. And I'll just put some links. That's why I was saying I don't know who watches my channel, but maybe this could be useful to someone out there. And I don't just mean in an altruistic way. That will be the reason why some people might want to do this, but you might also be interested in companies that are responding to this need if the need arises, which is going to be dependent on how everybody is acting today. Don't be like Post Malone, whoever that guy is. Take it seriously, and then it won't be too serious, because people are already going to be infected by the flu. We just don't know how hospital and healthcare systems are going to be able to handle incoming patients. It's funny, it's like a slow train wreck because you can see this coming from a mile away, and everything that's happening now is kind of only the beginning of it. I just wanted to put this information out there. I want people to understand the respiratory failure that happens, and the reason why a lot of people die is because they can't be treated in intensive care units, and that's what's happening in Italy. And I think what we really need is medical equipment. And I also think you should be cautious to not get it, even if you think you're not particularly vulnerable, because we don't actually know what the long-term effects are going to be. And for a lot of respiratory illnesses, after you've contracted them, you still have issues later. They were linking a paper called The Design and Prototyping of a Low-Cost Portable Mechanical Ventilator through 3D printing, and it was done all the way in 2010. This also reminds me, this is worst case scenario in terms of societal breakdown. There's a FEMA manual that's out there that shows how to get fuel, how to make gas, how to create a gas motor based on materials that you could find. This is more for like wartime scenarios, but all of this information is out there if you're willing to look for it. And just want to share. It does seem like Trump is going to be working with that company I mentioned in the last video called Roche, and they've had a solution available for a long time now, over a month now, and they're finally being taken seriously. That's great. It's great that a lot of companies are canceling conferences, events, and I know it's not that useful to scold people, but if people just did all of this at the beginning, everything you do now affects what happens later. And I personally think that they should have just closed all the borders temporarily. I know they're worried about business and all of that, but if the response had been quicker, faster, then it's just less hassle later. And another thing to think about is that the virus might mutate again, because it already did. And that's one of the things that I'm concerned about, because we don't have treatment, and then the vaccine might not work if we came up with one. So yeah, maybe it won't be that bad. It's already looking like it's bad based on the response now, but maybe things won't be that bad. For the moment, I haven't been super affected, but this is just the beginning. Also, I watched Contagion, and yeah, I kind of was like, I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die yet. That's not what I want. So that's what I wanted to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll put a lot of links in the description as usual. Stay safe out there. Be prepared. Bye.